Hello, lords and ladies of the realm. I am Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you guys the latest episode of Game of Thrones. We are on Season 5, Episode 8, Hardhome. So, spoiler alert before we dive into the mad thick of things, as I will be bearing all in this review. You guys might want to pack your parkas and cozy on up because we are heading far, far into the north, in a galaxy far away, where shenanigans ensue. But as of right now, here come the spoilers. So, what a night! I feel like, was I the only one who was living under a rock this week and did not foresee this giant epic battle coming? I mean, I really feel like I should have, but I guess I wasn't exactly sure when they were going to have Jon and Tormund arrive at their destination to attempt to form an alliance with the rest of the Wildlings and get everybody on the same team, that is the team of the living. Because ultimately, we are moving into the land of the Walking Dead, where it's us against them. Essentially, which is kind of crazy to think when we've been so immersed in and just inundated by all of the political insanities from King's Landing and beyond. It's like what Dany and Tyrion were talking about down in Meereen. And Dany, of course, revealed her intentions to break the wheel, that is, the never-ending turning of the houses, one on top of the other, constantly just barreling across everything, destroying everything in their wake. And it is in this same way that the White Walkers are coming for the rest of the world. So that's kind of crazy. I didn't really think about that before I started this vlog, you know, the parallelism between Dany and the dead. Woo! That's scary. But it's kind of crazy to see those different ends of things, and of course to consider the different ways in which this wheel of power could very well be broken. So at any rate, I want to start off at the top of this review by letting y'all in on some information that I myself picked up as I was trying to figure out who is that kingly icy figure among the White Walker lords, however their power system works. The one that is having that epic face-off with Jon, who just survived a very unexpected encounter with a White Walker in which he came out on top thanks to a little bit of Valyrian dragon-based steel. That is, dragons are the way to go in pretty much every single regard. And that is the kind of thing that leads me to believe that Dany may very well be a very powerful part of the endgame of this series, you know? And, oh my gosh, this bird is having a freaking heyday right outside my window. This is a one-person vlog. I might have asked you to come if I wanted you to. Sorry if you hear the incessant twittering that is currently consuming my ear. But anyways, so that the White Walker, of which I am speaking, is apparently, this is a general consensus that I've seen so far, is something called the Night's King. Now, based on this story that I read, so this character has not yet shown up in the books either. So this is pretty unprecedented territory that we're in this week. And I read this on the Game of Thrones Wikipedia page as well, which talks about kind of the background of the Night's King, who apparently lived during the Age of Heroes. I don't know what that is because I just watched the show. But, so I guess not long after the wall was complete, this guy was, there he was a fearless warrior who was named the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and later fell in love with a woman with skin as white as the moon and eyes like blue stars. He chased her and loved her, though her skin was cold as ice. You know, little foreigner. You're as cold as ice. And then, when he gave his seed to her, he gave his soul as well. So, if this is in fact the Night's King that we're looking at in the final scene of this episode, that means that we're looking at Lord Commander versus Lord Commander. A little bit of tension afoot there. So, of course, Jon takes an enormous risk, at the expense of all of his comrades of the Night's Watch and, any of the other peoples threatened by the Wildlings who are south of the wall. But he takes this giant risk in order to save humankind from this encroaching threat that is accompanying the swift approach of winter. Winter and death are coming hand in hand, and Jon is seeking to take a stance against this in a very unpopular choice, but he has put to death the boy within him, arisen a man, and in this decided, you know what? We can never forget our dead. We can never truly forget the past. But we must also think of what past are our children going to have to look back upon, and what future will they have even, so it's that kind of core fundamental question that he approaches the Wildlings with, and thankfully has Tormund to speak on his behalf and vouch for this guy, because you can never trust a man in black unless there are aliens afoot. But anyways, so it's just so nuts to me, because here is Jon Snow on the side of life, and here is the Night's King on the side of death. And just, there's something so ridiculously haunting about that final scene that we are left with, where he just stands and raises his arms and just is like, come at me, bro. Or rather, I'm coming at you, bro. And of course, the Night's King, I'm going to refer to him as the Night's King, because at this point, that's really all he is to me, besides just a White Walker. So Night's King sees in Jon a threat, but raises him, well, a bunch of undead wildlings that he just, with the motion of his hands, is bringing more death. These people who died in battle are reborn into death. And so it's this crazy life or death struggle, like this intense two-sided dichotomy that we're dealing with here, which is just so crazy to experience when we know that so many other people throughout Westeros are dealing with an entirely different set of affairs. And so here's the shadow that's just moving over everything, and at some point it's just going to come crashing down. And so for as much as we are anxious to see who gets the Iron Throne, who gets to control Westeros, the question will be, what can Westeros do to not die? Just on an unprecedented global scale? Like, is the person who is ultimately going to possess power when winter hits and when the White Walker threat is at large for everyone and is immediate and pounding on everyone's doors, like, is the person in charge going to have the means to be able to equip the people to fight back and to champion life? And so I'm thinking in my mind, like, is Daenerys Targaryen the person, the leader who can champion life? And I believe that. I mean, at this point in time, with what she's doing in Meereen, she is, it's not that she is trying to be more ruthless, and in fact has brought about freedom for so many people, but she's trying to flex her muscles a bit and look more into, killing when she needs to, putting people down, putting those who she has vowed to stand against, but ultimately, could she be this figurehead and the crowning champion of life for this world that could someday, like, very well be completely broken? So what wheel is going to be broken exactly? How many by the time all is said and done? So I think what was cool about this episode is that we get a glimpse into the future and the bigger picture, while at the same time getting to dance and the fun of Dany and Tyrion getting to meet, let alone speak over wine and discuss the world that they together could forge. And it just makes you hope all the more that there is some way to combat this all-consuming and encroaching threat that nobody can really truly pragmatically deal with. I mean, despite Jon Snow's very, very valiant endeavor to do so. Although he beat a freaking White Walker. So, you know, he took a little stab at death, that's for sure. You know, threatening the very not nice immortality that is coming around. So, yeah, that was so cool to witness, and it's been a little while since we had a good old battle in the north, but it's not so much a battle as it is a massacre when we are looking at, of course, the broad scope of what unfolded, and it hits so fast because all it really looked like to me initially was an avalanche or something. But I could tell by the way that people were reacting, and of course with the closing of the gates, it's like if it was just an avalanche, why would they be shutting all of these people in, you know? So yeah, and it's a little bit reminiscent too of what Bran and his companions faced when they were getting to the Three-Eyed Raven. So yeah, a lot of things came together here at Hardhome. It was very fast-paced and incredibly visceral and intense. We did have, like, although there was a lot of quick cuts and it was really tough to take in and just process all the information that we're seeing. You know, this is basically like The Walking Dead on steroids in the heart of Antarctica. Like, it doesn't get much crazier than that, but there was, like, this one extended shot of, you know, Jon is running back into the fray and seeing him taking out the dead as he goes, and of course too we have a really powerful moment with one of Jon's lieutenants, one of the wildling women who he recruited and is standing by his side in taking the wildlings south of the wall. That moment when she has to face the undead children, I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of, but it was that one situation that utterly broke her, and her as a mother seeing all of these emaciated corpse-like children, just eyes sunken into black sockets, and like just breaking her in that moment. I mean, because that is just the epitome of the end of humanity, is the death of innocence, essentially. And that just shows the magnitude of this force that is coming for the world, coming for its children. And in fact, from what I understand and have been seeing around on the internet, the Night's King was the one who in a season past touched a child that was brought to this altar, and we see its eyes glass over into that fierce, intense blue. And it's this, like, you know, to be restored into an endless death. And see, I like, as a literary guru, I'm taking all these motifs and I am just running with it, so I'm gonna stop myself now. But there was so much that was so powerful about this episode in terms of its ideas and in terms of the execution too. I mean, by all means, let me know what you guys thought and how you enjoyed this, and even how this the battle in this episode holds up against some of the others that we've seen in seasons past too. I am ever impressed by this show's ability to transition into the mythical fantasy aspects. It's very surreal and strange because we are at most times with these tangible human characters with whom we identify, and then we have these moments where we are reminded that, yes, as Sean Bean once said, winter is coming. He was one of the number one guys to actually say that on the show. So Jon Snow has since taken up that mantle. I'll go ahead and touch on some other parts of the episode as well, although the battle massacre, I mean, however you will label it, pretty much took up the major breadth of the episode. But as far as other happenings in the North region, Bolton and Ramsay are kind of taking different approaches to the threat that Stannis currently poses. We didn't get to see Stannis and his army this week, but we see Bolton is insisting that they just kind of let them die out, essentially. Let the cold and the elements take them down and stifle them, you know, without food, without warmth, you know. They will eventually just kind of fold in before they even arrive. Whereas Ramsay really wants a show-off force and wants to be the ones to strike first, which, but of fucking course. So we'll see what's gonna happen with that. And apparently he wants 20 good men for the job. Not sure what that's gonna entail. Probably bad things. But then also we finally see, and I knew that this was going to happen at least this season, but Sansa discovers that it is quite possible that her brothers are still alive. Going from being alone in the world, to her knowledge, the last living Stark, and married to a complete and utter psychopath. The cards that have been drawn are dire. And finally gaining this information from Reek, from Theon, that he was unable to find her brothers and thus killed farm boys instead. It's this utter shock for her, which I hope is going to translate into, you know, more resilience for her as she faces the environment that she is in, the people that she is surrounded by, and hopefully this knowledge will be that push of momentum to keep pressing forward and to not remain in this prison, but ever be seeking the way out and the way to survive and withstand what she is dealing with. Which is, I mean, this is as much a win as anything for Sansa at this point, considering recent events, so I am hopeful. And Brienne is still somewhere looming in the distance, too. That's something to keep in mind. Speaking of Stark ladies, well, not really a Stark lady anymore, because Arya, over in Braavos, has begun her Faceless Woman training. And so we see this kind of persona that she has taken on, and she's beginning to explore this world. And while it is questioned whether or not she is ready, what does it matter in the eyes of the many-faced god? And, yeah, so it's, like, that stuff it's a little bit confusing. Or maybe I'm just not very intelligent, which is always a very viable option. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of that in the upcoming episodes to kind of better grasp what it is that Arya is really entering into in her assassin training. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating ride. Very, very surreal that she has finally come to this place and is in transition, in transformation. We also get to see, in terms of the women of Westeros undergoing major changes, Cersei Lannister is, enjoying her new digs, living a new sort of life, and continuing to issue threats as if she has any ability to do so in her shoes, or lack thereof. Okay, what's his name? The creepy guy who is working on experiments in his secret dungeon lab thing. Well, he visits her. The name is not coming to me at the moment. Just to tell her that pretty much everyone refuses to see her for varying reasons, and that her cousin whom she had, her uncle whom she had sent away has come back to take up a position of power in her stead, and this will simply not do, because, I mean, Cersei is so ready to be restored to power immediately that she is doing everything she can to still control what's happening in King's Landing from a freaking cell, in which she will confess to nothing. So, good luck, sweetheart. I'm pulling for ya. Pulling real hard, but it's tragic and satisfying all at once, because she's getting her just desserts and is facing the consequences of so many actions. And I think it's fascinating to see just her indignation at the fact that the High Sparrow has risen to power on her account only to knock her down, when in fact she should be looking at herself instead of being angry and outraged at him, because guess who brought him around town? So, hey. Oh, the rain has come. Maybe winter is coming up here too. Little winter in May? June? It's almost June. Might be June by the time you're watching this. But anyways, what else is going on? So many things. Oh, well, of course we need to talk about Tyrion and Dany, which was just, I mean, their meeting is such a desirable turn of events for me, and I think for so many others, that it almost feels like fan fiction-y. Just because it's like, here's my favorite character here. Here's my other favorite character here. Let's bring them together and have them conspire to take over the world in a good way. In an arguably good way, hopefully, maybe. But, and I love, too, the way that Tyrion sells himself when he is quite possibly on the line for getting axed, and Dany is asking, you know, what use would I have with you? And he kind of turns it around and is like, well, how do I know that you are worthy of my services? Which is pretty much only a thing you can do if you're Tyrion Lannister. But if it works, just roll with it. And he did such an excellent and just very delicate job of handling the Jorah situation, which, you know, he's kind of the elephant in the room. The big gray elephant in the room is in the gray scale is coming. And the way that Tyrion deals with that, as Dany is kind of testing the waters to see if Tyrion is one who might give wise counsel, what Tyrion tells her when she's like, yo, should I kill him? He says, like, he talks about how Jorah is so completely and utterly devoted to Dany, which by all means is quite apparent to her, but says that a leader who kills the ones devoted to her does not inspire devotion. So, wise words, Mr. Lannister. You got yourself a seat on the Council of the Queen. But unfortunately for Jorah, he gets kicked out of the city. Again. And what does he do? Go to the fighting pits. Again. But this time, he's pretty much going on a suicide mission, I feel like. Because he knows that his days are numbered. And he knows that there is nothing else for him in the world now. Essentially. There is no one to whom he can return. There's really no place out there, and even, you know, knowing of his father's death too. So he decides to turn right back around, and he is gonna kill as many people as he can to impress his dame. So good luck, buddy old pal. That's one approach to the friend zone. Let me tell you, that is one approach to getting yourself to a new level. So cheers to you. This is water because I am not a Lannister. But I so enjoyed the conversations that unfolded between Tyrion and Dany, and the way that they're kind of harping back and forth at one another. Like, why do either of us need each other when? And then they kind of dive back into their personal histories. And ultimately, Tyrion concludes that they are terrible children of two terrible men. Two terrible children of two terrible men. And of course, Dany is at first a bit resistant to thinking of herself as one who is terrible, but as she considers the choices that she has been forced to make and sees how strategic they are, as Tyrion points out, she realizes that perhaps the two of them may very well complement one another. And of course, it's interesting, too, that Dany is hesitant to take Tyrion on since he was sent by Varys, to whom Jorah was giving information. And so it's just all these kinds of twists and turns. And even though, and she's not simply going to take him on the account of the fact that he, like, killed off his family, who killed off her family. Like, he really tries to put them on a level playing field, and I think he does a very fine job of that. And this could be the start of a beautiful friendship, is what I say. And yeah, so if there's anything else glaring that I missed, it's quite possible that I did. Yell at me in the comments in a loving way. And that would be wonderful. If I have the time, I promise that I'll try to respond to comments. It's been weeks since I've had the time, but I'd like to think that someday it'll happen. So I want to break the wheel of my not being able to respond to my YouTube comments. So terrible metaphor. I'm a terrible child. Maybe it's three terrible children of 2 terrible fathers. My dad's pretty cool, so I'm gonna say that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this review. Like, comment, whatever suits your fancy. Stick around for my reviews in the days to come. And also, Hannibal is coming back this week. I'm gonna be all on top of that. And True Detective this month as well. So, oh yes, and my review of the latest Telltale Games Game of Thrones episode is either coming or up right now. Get onto it. So, thank you again, and as always, I will be back before you know it.